Hello and welcome to our public speaking modules. My name is Nguyễn Thu Trang and I will be your teacher for the next 6 lessons. So in this module, you will learn some basic features of a speech, some ethical issues when delivering a speech, how to determine the purpose of the speech, as well as other factors needed to prepare for a speech. Okay, so speeches can change the world. Do you know any famous speeches that have enormous impact? First, let's watch the video in this link to see how many speeches do you know.
Words have the power to inspire, motivate, and influence millions of people, which is exactly what these speeches did.
And I still believe that these problems can be solved.
Welcome to WatchMojo.com, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 famous speeches in history.
We make speeches for each other, and those English liberal magazines that may grant us a few lines.
For this list, we're looking at formal speeches delivered to an audience and are not including impromptu quotes such as Neil Armstrong's,
"It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind,"
or sermons from religious figures such as Jesus Christ.
Ye are the salt of the earth, but if the salt has lost his savor, wherewith shall it be salted?
Number 10, Campaign into India, Alexander the Great.
His conquests hinged on his army's use of advanced technology, but they also depended on Alexander's legendary ability to command the loyalty of thousands of men.
One of the greatest conquerors the world has ever seen. By 335 BC, Alexander the Great controlled all of Greece, Egypt, and the Persian Empire.
I don't think Alexander saw any military engagement as anything other than an opportunity to build his own heroic stature.
Alexander wanted more than that, however, and set his sights on India. Unfortunately, after nearly 10 years of fighting, his army had no interest in traveling further east and threatened mutiny.
They rebelled against him, they refused to go further, and he had to turn around.
Alexander, having studied under Aristotle, gave a rousing speech to motivate his men to continue to fight, ending it by stating, "I will make those who stay the envy of those who return."
And all your great victories fade. It will always be remembered. You left your king in Asia, for I will go on with my Asians.
Number 9. Germany declares war on the USA, Adolf Hitler.
Nicht der Staat hat uns geschaffen, sondern wir schaffen uns unseren Staat.
Hey, we didn't say all of these guys were good guys. A fantastic orator with the ability to inspire millions to carry out his plans.
Vor uns liegt Deutschland, in uns marschiert Deutschland und hinter uns kommt Deutschland.
One of Hitler's greatest speeches came on December 11, 1941, when Germany declared war on the United States. After summarizing Germany's military successes in the previous year, Hitler turned his attention to the United States. He stressed that Germany had done nothing wrong to America at any point in history.
Ich brauche Ihnen nicht zu versichern, meine Herren Abgeordneten, dass es jeder deutschen Regierung gänzlich gleichgültig ist, ob der Präsident der Vereinigten Staaten eine Grenze in Europa anerkennt oder nicht und auch in der Zukunft gleichgültig sein wird.
Out of retaliation, the United States declared war on Germany later that day, making sure America was fully involved in both the European and Pacific theaters of the war.
Die große Not unseres Volkes, die uns einst ergriffen hat.
Number 8. Funeral oration, Pericles.
It's probably not a more important figure in the history of classical Greece than Pericles.
What do you say to a city that has seen fathers, husbands, and sons die in a war that has no end in sight? That was the task facing Pericles when he gave a speech at a public funeral for all Athenian men who had been killed in the Peloponnesian War against Sparta.
Pericles' expectation was that after a year or two, but no more than 3, the Spartans would realize that they could not win the war because the Athenians would never give them the infantry battle they needed in order to win, and they had no other device available.
Rather than mourn the dead, Pericles enthusiastically praised Athens and its citizens. He used his rhetoric ability to motivate all Athenians to continue to fight to ensure these men did not die in vain.
The state thus offers a valuable prize as the garland of victory in this race of valor, for the reward both of those who have fallen and their survivors. And where the rewards for merit are greatest, there are found the best citizens.
Is it any wonder the historian Thucydides called him the first citizen of Athens?
But for all his power and sway, Pericles did not rule the city. For Athens was a democracy.
Number 7. Second Virginia Convention, Patrick Henry.
I know not what course others may take, but as for me, give me liberty or give me death!
Give me liberty or give me death. These famous words that would forever be associated with the American Revolution were spoken by Patrick Henry at the Second Virginia Convention in 1775.
We must fight! I repeat it, sir! We must fight!
Virginia was one of the most important colonies in the New World, and without its help, the Revolution had little chance of succeeding.
There is no retreat but in submission and slavery. Our chains are forged. Their clanking may be heard on the plains of Boston. The war is inevitable, and let it come. I repeat, sir, let it come.
Henry's speech was so powerful that the entire convention, which contained the likes of George Washington and Thomas Jefferson, is said to have sat in silence for several minutes afterward.
Patrick Henry was more responsible for getting the revolution underway than any other founding father.
Number 6. Inaugural Address, John F. Kennedy.
Let us go forth to lead the land we love, asking his blessing and his help, but knowing that here on earth, God's work must truly be our own.
After 2 world wars, a conflict in Korea, a crippling depression, and relations with the Soviet Union reaching a boiling point, the United States needed a reason to feel optimistic.
But most threatening of all, he sees nearly 1,600 American strategic bombers and 200 intercontinental ballistic missiles, which can strike the Soviet Union from the U.S.
Enter John F. Kennedy.
Do you want a man for president who's seasoned through and through?
At only 43, JFK was the youngest president to ever be elected, and he gave one of the most memorable inauguration addresses of all time.
And let every other power know that this hemisphere intends to remain the master of its own house.
Stressing the importance of resiliency and nationalism, he famously stated,
"And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country."
Number 5. Quit India, Mahatma Gandhi.
Until we stand in the fields with the millions that toil each day under the hot sun, we will not represent India, nor will we ever be able to challenge the British as one nation.
Many passionate speeches have been given by someone speaking up for an oppressed people, but rarely have they advocated for passive resistance.
This salt comes from the Indian Ocean. Let every Indian claim it as his right.
And so, once more, the man of non-violence has challenged the might of the British Empire.
Mahatma Gandhi did exactly that in 1942, when he called for non-violent resistance to British occupation and inspired the Quit India movement.
Declaring, "Here is a mantra, a short one that I give you. It is, do or die. We shall either free India or die in the attempt."
Calling himself a friend of Britain, he declared that he was attempting to save the British from their mistakes. While the Quit India movement was ultimately a failure, the British government did eventually grant India independence.
Nonviolent revolution had freed India. In the 50 years since, it has transformed the world. As Martin Luther King later said, "Christ gave me the message. Gandhi gave me the method."
Number 4. Inaugural Address, Franklin Delano Roosevelt.
One has to imagine millions of people clustered around their radio sets in towns all across the country. They don't know what to expect of this new president.
JFK surely delivered one of the greatest inaugural addresses in history. But decades earlier, Franklin Delano Roosevelt began his lengthy career as president with this iconic speech.
They only know the rules of a generation of self-seekers. They have no vision. And when there is no vision, the people perish.
At the time, America was in the middle of the worst depression in history and had essentially run Herbert Hoover out of office.
And I am convinced that you will again give that support to leadership in these critical days.
FDR was able to win over the hearts and minds of a discouraged American population with a passionate and confident speech, promising to wage war against the economic crisis facing the country. Of course, having a strong opening line always helps.
Let me assert my firm belief that the only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
Number 3, we shall fight on the beaches, Winston Churchill.
If we had kept together after the last war, if we had taken common measures for our safety, this renewal of the curse need never have fallen upon us.
One of 3 key speeches given by Churchill during the Battle of France. This rousing address was delivered under less than ideal circumstances.
And if you look at what Churchill achieved every day, it is absolutely mind-boggling. He was running on a different kind of petrol.
The English Prime Minister was forced to not only warn the English people about the potential for France's catastrophic defeat, but also to prepare them for war on their home soil. Less than a month earlier, Churchill had declared that the Allies would be victorious. With this looking less and less likely by the day, Churchill resoundingly stated that the British would never surrender to Germany.
We shall never surrender!
Instead, he memorably said they would fight them in France, on the seas, in the air, in the streets, and on the beaches.
We shall fight in the seas and oceans. We shall fight with growing confidence and growing strength in the air. We shall defend our island, whatever the cost may be.
Number 2, I Have a Dream, Martin Luther King Jr.
America has given the Negro people a bad check. A check which has come back marked insufficient funds.
One of the most inspirational speeches of all time, Martin Luther King Jr. delivered this famous call to action to over 250,000 people on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial in 1963.
And the destruction, the life, and of the ongoing progress of the Negro will be the destruction of the ongoing progress of the nation.
King demanded an end to racism in America, stating that 100 years after the Emancipation Proclamation, African Americans were still not considered equal.
Now is the time to rise from the dark and desolate valley of segregation to the sunlit path of racial justice.
Perhaps surprisingly, the I Have a Dream line was not in the original draft. It was improvised on the spot by King after gospel singer Mahalia Jackson yelled out from the crowd, urging him to tell them about the dream.
I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today.
Before we yield the floor to our top pick, here are a few honorable mentions.
Hence, every discrimination against women in the constitutions and laws of the several states is today null and void, precisely as is every one against Negroes.
I have only one thing to say. You turn if you want to. The ladies not for turning.
Well now, it is time to be off. I to die and you to live. But which of us has the happier prospect is unknown to anyone but heaven.
If you seek prosperity for the Soviet Union and Eastern Europe, if you seek liberalization, come here to this gate. Mr. Gorbachev, open this gate.
Today, I consider myself the luckiest man on the face of the earth.
Number 1. The Gettysburg Address, Abraham Lincoln.
I think if I had my choice of all the moments to be present at in that war period, it would be at Gettysburg during Lincoln's delivery.
The Gettysburg Address is, without a doubt, one of the most famous speeches in American history.
And then he went on to embolden the Union cause with some of the most stirring words ever spoken.
Taking inspiration from Pericles' funeral oration, Lincoln delivered it 4 months after the Union Army defeated the Confederacy at the bloody Battle of Gettysburg.
77 years ago, our fathers brought forth upon this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty.
In less than 3 minutes, Lincoln issued a moving plea for the Union to pay tribute to the dead by continuing to fight for the principles outlined in the Declaration of Independence: freedom, liberty, and equality.
Finally, the president hears a long, thunderous applause. Now history will take the measure of the president's remarks.
Referenced countless times, including by JFK and Martin Luther King Jr., the transformative impact of this speech on the country has earned it a prominent place in the history of the United States.
And that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth.
Do you agree with our list?
Und ihr dürft ihn euch schon nicht groß werden lassen.
What's your favorite famous speech? For more exciting top 10s published every day, be sure to subscribe to WatchMojo.com.
Because you've fallen in love with all the things in life that destroy men.
So after this lesson, the student will be able to first, list the basic features of a speech. Second, identify the relationship between public speaking and conversation. Next, identify the factors that influence the speech communications. And last, recognizing ethical problems in public speaking. So in this lesson, we have 2 parts. The first part is speaking in public, and the second part talking about the ethics and public speaking. So, in speaking in public, we have 3 parts. The first one, we will talk about the power of public speaking, sức mạnh của hùng biện. And in the next part, we will talking about the similarities and differences between public speaking and conversations. So, điểm giống và khác nhau giữa hùng biện và đối thoại. And next, we'll talk about elements of speech communication, so các yếu tố giao tiếp trong hùng biện. Since the ancient time, many men and women around the world have spread their ideas and influence through public speaking. Can you match these famous speakers with their contributions to the world? Can you think of on what situations do you have to do public speaking? So, for the questions, when do you have to do public speaking? I have some suggested answers for you. So the first one, work presentation. You can do public speaking in work meeting as well, or meeting in the residential area, wedding speech, parents meeting, or retirement party. According to a survey on the most important skills for graduates, communication skill, including public speaking, is the most valued by both business leaders and hiring managers. So public speaking allows you to raise your ideas and to have an impact of issues that matter to you and to the groups. Public speaking can and often does make a difference. So many people think that the growth of the internet and video meeting will reduce the need for public speaking. However, Even on the internet, people still do online public speaking, which requires similar set of skills that a public speaker needs. And people did do and still need public speaking very much. And that is why this course is designed with a view to help you to acquire public speaking skills so you can deliver your ideas more effectively. The skills that you learn from this course can not only be applied to public speaking English, but they can also be useful when you have to make a speech in Vietnamese. Hùng biện sẽ cho phép các bạn nêu lên ý tưởng của mình và có tác động đến các vấn đề quan trọng đối với bạn và trong nhóm của bạn. Hùng biện có thể và thường tạo ra những cái sự khác biệt. Và nhiều người nghĩ rằng là cái sự phát triển của Internet hay của những cuộc họp video sẽ làm giảm nhu cầu nói trước công chúng. Tuy nhiên, ngay cả khi trên Internet thì mọi người vẫn đang nói trước đám đông một cách trực tuyến. Và điều này đòi hỏi bộ kỹ năng tương tự mà một diễn giả cần. Và mọi người đã làm và sẽ vẫn cần làm nói trước công chúng rất là nhiều. Và đó là lý do tại sao khóa học này được thiết kế nhằm giúp các bạn có được kỹ năng nói trước đám đông để các bạn có thể truyền đạt được ý tưởng của mình một cách hiệu quả nhất. Và các kỹ năng mà bạn học được từ khóa học này không chỉ áp dụng được trong việc nói trước công chúng bằng tiếng Anh mà còn có thể hữu ích khi các bạn phải phát biểu bằng tiếng Việt nữa. Exercise 1. Which of the following features do public speaking share with conversation? Which belongs to public speaking mostly? When you start a speech, you need to think about which elements would affect your speech so that you can change or adapt those elements to reach the maximum effect. So here are 6 elements that you need to think about when you speak. The first one is speaker, diễn giả. Next one is message, thông điệp. The next one is listener, thính giả. The fourth element is channel, kênh. The fifth element is situation, hoàn cảnh. And the last one, feedback, phản hồi. Speech communication begins with the speaker. Our success as a speaker depends on the first one is personal credibility, uy tín cá nhân. Next one is knowledge of the subject, kiến thức về chủ đề. Next one is preparation for the speech, sự chuẩn bị cho bài phát biểu. Next one is the manner of speaking, cách nói chuyện. Next one is the sensitivity to the speaker and the occasions, tức là sự nhạy cảm với khán giả và các cái trường hợp mà chúng ta đang diễn thuyết. Next one is enthusiasm, sự nhiệt huyết. This can be a checklist that tell you what to improve if you want to become a successful speaker. Message is what you want to say, what you want the listener to remember. Our goal in public speaking is to have our intended message actually communicated. Achieving this depends on both what you say, so the verbal communications, and how you say it, which is the non-verbal communications. So I will have an example for you. So let's think about this a little bit. So if I call my friend and say, I will be a little late picking up you tonight. The message is that tối nay tôi sẽ đến đón bạn muộn. But it may not be the only message if I use some kind of tone that suggests the reluctant or hesitations. So like, I will be a little late picking you up tonight. The underlying message might be, I really don't want to go to that party. You talked me into it, but I'm going to put it off as long as I can. Vậy thì khi mà chúng ta dùng một số ngữ điệu nhất định như vừa rồi chẳng hạn, thì câu nói này có thể ám chỉ rằng là tôi không muốn đi đến bữa tiệc này một chút nào cả và tôi sẽ trì hoãn nó lâu nhất có thể. The next one you need to care about is who are you speaking to. So to be an effective speaker, you must be the audience center. So you will quickly lose your listener attention if your presentation is too basic or too complicated. You will lose your audience if you do not relate to their experience, their interest, their knowledge, or their values. So you need to make a speech that causes the listener to say, that is important to me. Vậy thì để trở thành một diễn giả hiệu quả, chúng ta sẽ phải lấy khán giả làm trung tâm. Ta sẽ nhanh chóng đánh mất sự chú ý của người nghe nếu bài thuyết trình của mình quá là cơ bản hoặc nó quá là phức tạp. Vậy thì khán giả sẽ dần mất tập trung nếu bài nói không liên quan đến những cái kinh nghiệm, những cái sở thích, kiến thức hay là giá trị của họ. Chúng ta cần thực hiện một bài phát biểu để người nghe nhận ra rằng là điều đó thực sự là rất quan trọng với tôi. You need to change the way you deliver your speech depending on the channel. For example, with face-to-face, in front of a group of audience, we need to move more, use more body language, use your voice louder. And with online and TV, we stand at one place, like I am doing now, and mostly use our hand gestures. Vậy thì chúng ta sẽ cần thay đổi cách phát biểu tùy thuộc vào cái kênh chúng ta đang sử dụng. Ví dụ như chúng ta nói chuyện trực tiếp trước một nhóm khán giả thì mình sẽ cần phải di chuyển nhiều hơn, sử dụng nhiều ngôn ngữ cơ thể hơn và giọng nói có thể cần phải to hơn. Tuy nhiên đối với trực tuyến hay là truyền hình thì chúng ta chỉ cần đứng ở một nơi thôi và sử dụng cử chỉ tay là chủ yếu. You need to change the way you deliver your speech depending on situation as well. For example, in a crowded room, you need to speak louder. In a parents' meeting, you should speak more formal and serious, whereas in front of a group of children, you should be funny and energetic. Your audience don't simply just take your message, they send back the message of their own, and it's called feedback. So in public speaking, there's plenty of feedback to let you know how your message is being received. Do your listener lean forwards in their seats as if paying close attention? Or do they applaud in approval? Or do they laugh at your jokes? Or do they have a quizzical look at their face? Do they shuffle the feet and look at the clock? The message sent by these reactions could be, I'm excited, I'm bored, I agree with you, I don't agree with you. As a speaker, you need to be alert to these reactions and adjust your message immediately. Exercise 2. Read the story below. Drop the elements where they appear in the story. The next part, we will look at the ethics and public speaking. So the first one is the importance of ethics. The next one, guideline for ethical speaking. And last one, a note on plagiarism. Questions of ethics come into the play whenever a public speaker faces an audience. In an ideal world, as the great philosopher Plato noted, all public speakers would be trustful and devoted to the good of the society. Yet the history tells us that the power of speech is often abused, sometimes disastrous results. So Adolf Hitler was unquestionably a persuasive speaker. His charms attracted the German people, but his aims were horrifying and his tactics were inhumane. He remains to the day the ultimate example of why the power of spoken words needs to be guided by a strong sense of ethical rightness. Vậy thì các cái câu hỏi về đạo đức xuất hiện bất cứ khi nào một diễn giả trước công chúng đối mặt với khán giả, đúng không ạ? Và trong một thế giới lý tưởng thì như một triết gia Hy Lạp Plato đã lưu ý thì tất cả những người nói trước công chúng sẽ cần phải trung thực và cống hiến cho những lợi ích của xã hội. Tuy nhiên thì lịch sử cho chúng ta biết rằng là sức mạnh của lời nói thường đôi khi sẽ bị lạm dụng và có thể đưa ra những cái kết quả rất là thảm khốc. Và chúng ta chắc chắn là biết về Adolf Hitler, đúng không ạ? Là một diễn giả hết sức là thuyết phục. Ông ấy đã thu hút được người dân Đức, nhưng mà cái mục tiêu mà ông ấy nói, mà ông ấy muốn hướng đến khi sử dụng cái ngôn ngữ của mình thì thật sự rất là kinh hoàng và rất là vô nhân đạo. Vậy thì cho đến ngày nay thì đây vẫn là một cái ví dụ điển hình cho lý do tại sao sức mạnh của lời nói cần phải được hướng dẫn bởi một ý thức mạnh mẽ về sự đúng đắn về đạo đức. So, you need to follow these 5 rules. The first one, be ethical. Next one, be prepared. Next one, be original. Next, be honest. And last one, be fair. And you can use the checklist to check whether you have put ethical guidelines into your speech or not. And the last one, I want to have a note on plagiarism. Plagiarism means đạo văn. So plagiarism is use someone else's work or idea without giving them acknowledgement or receiving their agreement. So I have the first exercise for you. Did John plagiarize in this situation? Yes or no? So, to sum up, in this lesson, we can list the basic features of a speech. We also identify the relationship between public speaking and conversation. We also identify the factors that influence the speech communications. And last, we can recognize the ethical problems in public speaking. Thank you and see you in the next lesson.